Good day, everyone. Welcome to this week's learning session from Training Location. We're your authorized DiSC distributor for Wiley Publishing, as well as a channel partner with the Ken Blanchard Companies. My name is Bill Harshman, and I'll be your presenter today for this short, informative lesson. We learned in our last session that the four-quadrant DiSC model actually houses a total of 12 styles. Now, this lesson begins our increased understanding of not just the four quadrants with which we're already familiar, rather an understanding how changing proximity, or the distance to a neighboring style, within a particular quadrant yields a unique result which identifies a separate DiSC style. Today's focus is on one of those styles, the DiSC, or dominant conscientious style. Where did this come from? Well, as the DiSC has evolved and become totally computer-based, the algorithms showed a much more robust capability to plot your result or your dot very specifically within one of the four quadrants. Research showed that the analysis and weighting of the results placed the same styles in various places of a given quadrant. Simply put, the result was different degrees of the same style with slightly differing preferences and priorities. So what's in this for the learner? This lesson is going to be helpful whether you've taken the DiSC at all or don't know your DiSC style, or if you're a style other than DiSC. Now, just to give us context going in, here's a reminder. The cornerstone principles that we've talked about in previous lessons, one of those is everyone is a unique blend of all DiSC styles, and people typically tend toward one style. Now, this principle is particularly appropriate as we dive into the DiSC style. Quick summary of the DiSC style you see here. Let's start with what we know. We already know a couple basics about the DiSC style that resides within the dominant quadrant. This D quadrant, including the DiSC style, has a pace of faster and outspoken, combined with an agreeableness quotient of questioning and skeptical, which we call result focused, and the brief list of descriptors which you've seen before are still direct, firm, strong-willed, forceful, and results-oriented. But from our model, we also see, or we know, that the DiSC style priorities differ slightly from the D and include challenge, results, and accuracy. As we proceed in this lesson, you'll notice one or more of these priorities identified in our DiSC candidate. Refer to our blog titled Everything DiSC Workplace Profile, the 8 Priorities, if you'd like to understand more about the priorities associated with the DiSC styles, and specifically the DiSC style. Now, the thrust of today's lesson is around the priorities and qualities that tie those aforementioned descriptors together. Let's begin by examining the priorities. Excuse me. Now, priorities, they're listed around the circumference of the model there, are the primary areas where people focus their energy depending on their style. Everyone has at least 3 priorities. Sometimes you'll have 4, maybe even 5. Having more is no better or worse than having 3. So I'm sharing priorities from the Everything DiSC workplace profile in this example. The Everything DiSC workplace priorities are unique to you and based on your results. Priorities simply help us understand how our style might be reflected in motivations and behaviors within or given real life work scenarios. Now, the important thing to remember is that when things get foggy, such as when stress or uncertainty appear, we seek the priorities associated with our style. So let's talk about the priorities of the DiSC style. The first one I want to share is challenge. The DiSC wants to explore all options and make sure that the best possible methods are used or being used. As a result, they may be very questioning and skeptical of other people's ideas. The DiSC is not afraid to challenge opinions and ask questions. Next is results. The DiSC is often direct and straightforward. When they're focused on the bottom line, they may overlook the feelings of others. Other styles may have trouble relating to the DiSC's excessive drive for results. And last, third, is accuracy. The DiSC wants to control their work quality. They want to work independently, and they're focused on separating emotions from facts. Now, just a note about priorities. We see that all 3 styles within the D quadrant, that is the DiSC, the D, and the DI share the aforementioned descriptors of direct, firm, strong-willed, forceful, results-oriented, and each share the priority of results. However, as compared to the DiSC style, the DI style priorities, as you can see, are action, results, and enthusiasm, while the D style priorities are results, action, and challenge. Now, maybe too much to think about at once. So it's just a subtle distinction. However, this is part of what's been discovered through the enhanced computer algorithms and the adaptive testing techniques, including clarifying questions or tiebreaker items. Tiebreaker items are used when someone's results place them exactly between two styles. Only about 6% of the whole assessment population ever generate these tiebreaker items, just for your information. Next, we consider the qualities of the DiSC style. These are similar to core needs that we mentioned in previous articles. However, they're less unconscious and more at the surface near conscious observable behavior. The qualities vary and are represented in scales, what we call scales. So due to the pairings of styles to form a particular scale, you'll notice that these dual letter designations are shared with their neighboring dual letter mirror, I'll call it. For example, the DiSC/CD styles are physically paired together as such. And as such, they share style qualities. We'll see as we go on. The same is true of the DI, the ISSI proximity, and the CS and SC proximity. Now, the result is 8 DiSC scales instead of the 12, which you might expect. So we have 12 DiSC styles contained in 8 DiSC scales. Those are DC and CD, the D, DI and ID, the I, the IS and the SI, just going around the circle here, the S style, the SC and the CS style, and the C style itself. As we continue, you can consider the DC and CD styles as one scale as we go forward. So let's review the qualities of that style in the scale we just discussed. The first quality is mastery, second is invulnerability, and third is resistance. Let's break these down a little bit. For mastery, they have a strong need for competency, and their own sense of self-worth may be tied to their skills and problem-solving abilities. They typically pride themselves on their critical thinking and common sense, especially around others they see as lacking those qualities. They have high standards for themselves and others, and they can be frustrated by people and systems that don't live up. At times, they may give off a judgmental vibe, so to speak. It's almost as if incompetence itself is offensive to them. And their desire for mastery often gives them a real tenacity and a strong determination to overcome obstacles. Second, invulnerability. Because they expect life to be tough, they usually avoid making themselves vulnerable. If the world through their eyes is antagonistic, it makes sense to be guarded. They have a strong sense of self-sufficiency, feeling that reliance on others can put them at risk. There's also an intense drive to overcome their own perceived weaknesses or inferiority. They avoid situations that could make them look foolish or incapable. They may also be skeptical of public displays of sentimentality, which this can seem manipulative to them. Sentimentality may involve too much vulnerability for their taste to suit them. Last is resistance. So because they're more likely to see their environment as hostile or corrupt, they often have a fundamental tendency towards resistance. They may pride themselves on not caving to social pressure or not accepting inferior ideas or policies. Their skepticism makes them resist accepting anything at face value. And last, they may be the first to notice problems and speak up about them. They're often willing to challenge entire systems that seem inefficient or unfair. So that was a lot of new, detailed, complex information. What do you glean from that and apply it to your daily life? Let's go back to that cornerstone principle I referenced at the beginning of the lesson. Everyone is a unique blend of all DiSC styles. Now, this cornerstone principle encompasses many behaviors and preferences and priorities of other styles, and it makes up a person's overall character. The so what is to appreciate that unique blend generated from your DiSC results by understanding the individual qualities as expressed by attitudes, character traits, physical and mental activities. Everyone has them, and they can be good or bad. However, let's make it a point to remember one's DiSC qualities as well as one's DiSC style to increase awareness and improve communication. All right. I hope this overview has increased your awareness, your knowledge, and familiarity of the DiSC, and specifically the dominant conscientious style. Whether your needs include leadership, onboarding, employee engagement, culture change, or simply communication, DiSC is a research-based, proven leading training solution. It's impacted more than 8 million learners in over 130,000 organizations and through 14 languages in over 70 countries worldwide. It provides a quick, intuitive way to understand yourself and others and delivers immediate and lasting impact on people and culture. As always, the key to effectiveness through DiSC is understanding your and other styles, then using that knowledge for improved interactions. Here's our contact information. Before you go, I'd like to extend you a resource and a request. I'll be happy to send you a sample PDF of any of the DiSC profiles you see on our website, or if you'd like to discuss a complimentary live webinar introducing DiSC or one of the profiles to your team or organization, shoot me an email, info@traininglocation.com. Be sure and check out our learning blog at traininglocation.com and click on blogs and keep an eye out for our next article in the series. And before you go and close your screen, please, we always appreciate a like or share or download. And of course, for continued learning, please subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss new content. Thank you for joining us, and goodbye till next time.